G'day, Jeff and Daryl here from the Brisbane Opal Museum. So in the following interview, I'm talking with Daryl. So Daryl is a very experienced opal miner, boulder opal miner, so Queensland opal miner. And he's been in the business, been mining for 26 years, with over 14 leases. He's had some big wins, big discoveries, and has so much knowledge, just some great stories, and also maybe a few secrets. So I really enjoyed the interview. I learned a lot, probably the most I've ever learned by any opal miner. So if you're interested in opal, if you like watching opal hunters, if you're into geology, I think that you'll really get a good kick out of this. So if you do like the video, make sure you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, or you can subscribe to our on our website at australianopaljewelry.com.au and find out more and stay in touch. So I hope you enjoyed the following video as much as I enjoyed doing it. Alright, hi everyone, my name's Jeff McDonald. Now, I'm from the Brisbane Opal Museum. We had Daryl come into the shop yesterday. He's an opal miner, and I thought it would be great if we could actually get him in here and ask him to tell a little bit about his story and how we got into the game. He's agreed, so that's great. So thank you, Daryl.
No worries.
So, so Daryl, it's basically, I just want to know what your story is when it comes to the opal game, first of all, I'd just like to know, how did you get into it? How did it all start?
Well, actually, what started, I was subcontracting for a company called Macaleese Transport out of Mackay. Yeah. And I took a huge big tank out to a place called Phosphate Hill. Okay. You know where it is?
No.
You go out past Bullia, then up towards the Jara.
Yeah.
And there's a big mine in there called phosphate. It's fertiliser.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway.
So how far away would that be from Brisbane, inland?
Oh, roughly, probably 2,300 kilometres, something like that. Yeah, right. 2,400 kilometres.
Dirt road?
No, a little bitumen. Only the last bit from the Jara into the mine was dirt them days. Yeah. Okay. It's a huge deposit there. It's phosphates, dinosaur, bird droppings.
Okay, yeah, right.
Dinosaur big birds, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But,
so you went out there?
yeah, so I'd taken the tank out the trip before, and I'd met people at the Middleton pub. This is how it all really came together. And the mate that was running the pub, his wife was sort of running the pub, and my mate was manager of a property called Chiltern Hills, okay, which is, just up from Middleton.
Okay.
It actually butts on the Middleton Park. Anyway, I'd got on pretty well with them, so I'd gone back to Bundaberg to pick up a road train of fittings to stand this big tank, because the tank was like 100 feet long and 5.5 metres round, When I got back to the Diamantina River that trip, it had rained and flooded. It was flooded right up nearly to the grid. Okay, yeah. If you know the Diamantina, there's a grid coming onto it, going west. Yeah. It was flooded right up to there. So I'm parked in the middle of that grid with a road train. Can't go anywhere, can't get off the road. Yeah. So I'm sitting on the bull bar, leaning against the bull bar with my feet in the water, having a run. Yeah. And I see these guys coming across the creek. Yeah. And it was my mates from the pub. So they come down and rescued me. Yeah. So off we went back to the pub, left my truck there for a bit over 2 weeks. Yeah. It was there. And we went fossicking next morning.
That's a long time, 2 weeks?
Oh.
Or was that this? But you're kind of used to it. That would sometimes happen, and it's just part of the.
With that sort of river, it takes easy couple of weeks to go down far enough to get across. Yeah. So, and there's no good rush in it. Yeah. Because if you can't see where the posts are on the bridges. Yeah. Don't risk it. Yeah. Okay.
And how old were you then?
Oh, that's about 26 years ago. Yeah. And I'm 66 this year.
Yeah. Okay. So 30, 40.
Yeah. 40.
Okay.
So anyway, sitting at the pub next day, having a coffee, looking out across Middleton Park, and I said to me, mate, don't they get opals around here? Because I've spent a lot of years on machinery. Yeah. He said, yeah, it's all that country here, all through Woodstock here, Chiltern Hills, Milton. You want to go opal fossicking? I said, yeah.
Got 2 weeks, what else?
Yeah. So anyway, we went to a place called Mount Ines, and Mount Ines is on the boundary of what's called Woodstock property and Archivale. It's all those properties used to be Woodstock all together once, and then they just sold off parts of it, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, on that boundary, there's a big mine that's been pushed back out of a mountain, and I believe the bloke that done the mine was Jeff Plum.
Okay.
You ever run in there?
No.
Yeah. And they'd done it with a bulldozer. Well, it was 70 odd feet, the cut itself, and they'd gone into the back of the hill and taken probably a third of the back of the hill out.
Yeah,
and
right.
There's a big fault runs right through the mountain there.
Yeah, right, okay.
Still even today, it's that massive. Yeah. And they'd cut the back out of this fault, but they'd push down like this and back up again on the stockpile. See, and I said to me mate, geez, they do it hard here.
Mm.
Why? And I said, well, you don't push up with the dozer, it costs you too much money.
Mm-hmm.
I said, how can you control working a level with a bulldozer by the time you check a sees at the back there's some in the blade already gone?
Okay.
He said, you seem to know a bit about it.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, well, I've done gold and all this sort of stuff. And anyway,
yeah.
So eventually, 3 months later, because I decided that
so did the job.
Yeah, and we found some beautiful pieces on that heap. A lot of it was pipe.
Yeah.
And
that was because it was a lot of rain and had washed it away. Yeah.
And some of it was just laying there from the dozer, like the tracks.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of pipe opal in wood replacement, and obviously they weren't too concerned about taking a lot of that. They were more after the boulder, the pancake, which I believe I think they've got somewhere around about 700,000 out of that hill at the time.
Yeah. So boulder, just for you people listening to it, boulder opal and pancakes, just nice clean stones, beautiful stuff, easy to split.
Beautiful.
Wood replacement is kind of coming into its own these days, but going back in the past, no one had really heard about it, and it's hard for people to kind of justify price, but things have changed a lot.
And it was a funny mine because the pipe bearing wood replacement type of material was massive. It was like, some of it was this thick, and there was a big layer of it in that level, above that level.
Yeah.
And again, there was another level below, and another mate of mine called Tesla. You ever meet him?
Brenner? Tesla? No, Tesla. I think Tesla.
Eric Madsen.
Yeah.
Well, Tesla, he's been everywhere.
Yeah.
But I'd done a test hole on that mine when I actually sold my gear in Mackay, because I said to my mate, I'm going to come back and have a go at this.
Okay, yeah.
So I did. I sold all my gear. Me and my dad went out, and we
you and your dad? You convinced your dad? Okay, yeah.
And we learned how, got my mate Jimmy McCallum to show us how to prospect for Opal.
Yeah.
So we were determined to learn how to do it properly first, try and find what you can find off the top of the ground before you dig a hole.
Okay. And so let's explore that part. So what are you looking for if you're on the top of a mine, if you're prospecting?
You're looking for faults, the change in the ground, and then the fault.
And what kind of things would you see if you're looking for a fault?
Fault, you'll either see a change in the ground from sandstone to clay, and it will usually be a fairly straight line.
Yep.
They do bend and they step and they carry on. You can also pick them up by, when you're driving along in the car, more so than on foot, might see a line of gum trees, and big gum trees.
Yeah.
So that tells you there's usually a fault there, or you're in a clay slide, because gum tree's got to put his root right down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you normally find them on the crack of the fault.
Okay.
And I've found in some of my mines over the years, we've had massive big gum trees standing on the job. We've been mining here on a step, right? There'll be a step in the level.
Yeah.
And that step usually will run, that step crack will run right to the top of the ground, even under cap rock.
Okay.
And then you might have a big tree sitting over here. Well, you can bet that's another step, or another slip, or a slide, or a fault.
Yeah, okay.
And usually it always works here.
Sorry, I'm jumping around here. But in areas like Vergemont, there's not many gum trees. It's usually just
Gidgee and mulga.
But still looking for a bigger tree, or
but bigger trees.
Is it still looking? Are they in a row?
Usually in a line.
Okay, yeah, in a line.
And then you will pick up that division between, sandstone ground and clay ground.
Okay, yeah.
There'll always be. You will see it. If it's an opal bearing fault, you usually see that line. And it's quite distinctive, and then you walk that line, and you're going to look pretty hard sometimes. You might find where the fault is pushed up, the pancake, or the little boulders, or in a lot of cases pipe.
Okay.
And it might be in that tiny wood replacement. And some was like sandstone, 4 holes. Used to have little twigs in there, and then they rotted away and the opal replaces them. Well, that's usually something you find on a lot of faults, is that play.
What if all the signs look good but you're not finding any opal on the surface?
If you're not finding opal on the surface but everything else looks like there could be opal bearing, my idea of it these days is you put a test hole. Don't be afraid to put test holes.
Okay. Now, and I was talking with Daryl yesterday, and he was saying he doesn't do drilling with drill holes.
Not anymore. No.
Not anymore. You like to get in there with a machine and just dig a hole.
Yes.
Mainly because
when we had the big excavator, it was more. It teaches you to do that because a 100-ton machine is pretty quick at digging, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So a 40-foot hole. When we had the core drill, it'd take us roughly 35, 40 minutes to put a hole down 40 foot, depending on how hard the ground is. It's really hard, it'll take you 2 days.
Dangerous as well.
And they're dangerous.
Yeah.
And the old drill we bought off a Broken Lightning Ridge, it nearly killed us 3 times in 1 year. We nicknamed it Raptor and parked it up because it's just too damn dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I went back to test holing, and I realised then that it only takes 40 to 50 minutes to put a test hole down with a big digger anyway.
Yeah. How deep would that go?
40 feet.
Yeah, right.
But you learn that you've got to make your test hole big enough. So when you go down the second, you've got to ramp yourself in. So you go down full depth, then another one. So you keep ramping in. So on the last ramp, you've got to have your hole wide enough to swing your dirt beside you.
Yeah.
Because you can't reach out. But you learn how to do it.
Yeah, all the tricks. Yeah.
So I've just done a heap of test holes on 2 leases that Dave Strand has given me to dig. And some of those test holes are nearly 50 feet.
Okay, yeah.
With a 40-ton digger.
Yeah, okay.
And it still only takes you, it might take you an hour and a half to go 50 feet, but you can walk in the hole if you want to.
And which is useful.
Yeah, and then you can chip around the level and see what's going on.
Just jumping around here again, what would be, what's the minimum you think that someone needs as far as an excavator? If someone wants to go out there, maybe they've got a bit of money, but you know, we're trying to be conservative here. What can a 20-ton do it?
A 20-tonner can do it,
that's
but
the minimum.
what you'll learn pretty quickly there is a 20-tonner. If you're going to only have a 20-tonner, you want to have a ripper with it, and a very narrow bucket as well as your normal mud bucket.
Okay.
But you need a bucket that can actually break that hard sandstone.
Okay. So 40. What's a good? What's a good
size?
100 is great.
100's great, and even then, honestly, it's not big enough. We could have gone a 200-tonner because your cap rock. See, that's the thing. And the other thing is, a lot of the country.
Cap rock is just that real hard surface.
Right, and sometimes it's 40 feet thick.
40 feet thick. Yeah. What's a typical kind of thickness?
Typical thickness would be around 20.
And is it ironstone?
No, it's solidified sandstone,
Okay.
Solidified clay.
Okay.
It's a very similar thing to your sedimentary levels that you're looking for opal in.
Yeah.
It's just that where the opal's really concentrated in areas, it seems to solidify everything. And so when you've got huge cap rock, it's like looking at a mesa. And you see that cap rock lid on it.
Yeah.
And that red stain, like I was telling you yesterday, the red stain down the mountain. Well, you'll find where that red stain is, that cap rock is really hard to get off.
Okay, yeah.
And it's very
That's
hard.
why it's still there.
And what you need is a machine big enough in weight, more so than using the hydraulic strength. You use the weight of the machine to lift it out, otherwise it just breaks things. It's just too hard. But a 20-tonner mining in an area like where you're mining,
which is Verge Mine, Opalton area.
it's okay. You can make money with it.
Okay.
I would have started with I actually did start with a backhoe, and I used to pull myself up the sides of the mountains with it. But it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, you need a digger.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a bare minimum 20-ton.
20-ton minimum.
A dump truck.
I would go, if you had a 20-ton digger, I would go, say, a 15-metre bogey drive tipper. That's the cheapest way to go, and they still move dirt quick.
Yeah.
But you need that to get your dirt away from you, so you're not doing that same old thing us open miners always have to do, is move the dirt because you put it in the wrong spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that a lot.
Yeah, so you work out where your dead ground is first by testing.
Yeah.
And put it there first.
What about someone really wanted to be cheap? I was thinking about this. Just a backhoe?
Yeah.
like a revert, something like
I
that.
started with a backhoe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And what I did
what's the minimum? 20-ton? What, can you go even less?
Well,
if you just play
backhoes you really want a 4-wheel drive backhoe, otherwise they're too small. Because I had a 2-wheel drive case, and it was very quick at digging, and it had an extender hoe, which means you can push your dipper arm out a bit longer with them.
Okay, yeah.
But my idea of it now, if you had a backhoe, you want a 4-wheel drive backhoe.
Okay, and 20 tonne minimum?
Oh, you wouldn't have, most backhoes would be lucky to go 20 tonne. Even a 4-wheel drive, you might be 12, 14 tonne.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
good.
It's about the size.
All right.
But mind you, a backhoe is good in the respect if you've got EPs, which I don't put on anymore. If I was
sorry, Daryl. So EPs are environmental protection kind of things.
Exploration permit.
Yeah.
So instead of putting a lease on,
yeah.
which nowadays that's what I do, I'll go prospector's permit for that area,
yeah.
that particular amount of sub-blocks. I'll go prospecting and I'll peg leases because I hate paperwork. Can't stand the paperwork.
I thought peg a claim. Isn't claim smaller?
It is, yeah. Nowadays everyone wants to go claims, right? Okay. But without going into too much, claims have their issues with the EPA as well.
Okay.
You know, like they're on to everybody now. If every single thing that's laying on the ground, whether it be a vegetable garden, a sheet of tin, an old bomb car, or whatever it is, you're going to pay $500 for every one of them that's laying there.
Okay.
So the leases were better than that. The leases were different in the respect. In the lease agreement, it states there in black and white that you're allowed to have infrastructure to suit your mining operation. But on an EP, claim, machinery claim, it's not on there.
Yeah, okay.
So straight away you're going to pay a bond for having a camp,
okay.
which you still have to pay on a lease nowadays anyway.
So going back, so you think you go a lease, you like peg a lease, and how big does it matter the size?
The maximum you can have now on a lease is 25 hectares.
And do you like to go the largest?
Yes.
Yeah, just in case. Yeah.
Just in case, because you know, if there's a big enough fault there, or faults, whatever, it's not going to cost you much more to have 25 hectares than it's going to cost you to have 12. You know.
Yep. Okay.
And a lot of people will cover their leases with an EP. They'll put an exploration block around it to stop anyone coming in close. Yep. You just got to hope that there is honest people out there who give you a fair go. You know.
Yep. So just how long is it taking if we were to do a lease these days, because things have changed a lot, if you were to go for a 20 for that size, 25 hectare lease, how long would it take? I know that areas in Queensland are all different, but if you're in the Winton Virgin area, roughly
it will take you anything up to 18 months to get it granted.
It's a long time. Yes. It's one of the biggest issues.
Even a hand mining claim can take, I believe, 8 to 12, 14 months to get a hand mining 30 by 30.
Okay. Is there? I know that with the Winton area, there's the native title, but not with Virgin Opalton. Is that right?
Opalton's had the Elua taken off it, but what happens there is they've made that. They've taken the Elua off Opalton area, and I think it's around about a 10k area around Opalton, maybe 15k. But what happens then is that's put it back to the right to negotiate with the Aboriginals.
Okay.
So then all your bonding and everything changes. It costs you a heap of money just to put the ad in the long reach leader to put a lease or a claim on.
Okay.
But there is no Elua there. But if you step outside there, if you go to Woodstock, Middleton, Chilton, that area, I'm not sure, I think even Quilpie, down towards Junda, Stonehenge, I think is the same. Anywhere where the exploration's going on, it's all changed now. And I had a mate out there at Woodstock. I dropped a lease there about 3 years ago, completely dropped it. It was the first lease I ever put on. Yeah. And it had been renewed once, it had been renewed twice in 20 years. And the renewal was only a couple of grand. All of a sudden it was going to cost 9.5, 10 grand to renew this lease. And I said, no. Yeah. I'll drop it. And that's what I did, and it's still there.
Okay. Just a real quick little side note. In your time of Opalton and Winton, have you seen any kind of evidence of Aboriginal kind of stuff?
Not really.
No. It hasn't been.
There was. I know there is a couple of rock holes up around the area, and I haven't even been there. I've just been told there's Aboriginal paintings. That's down towards you guys. Okay. Down towards Virgin one somewhere.
I would love to find a painting of something with Aboriginal painting with opal in it, because there's so much stories, like you just don't know how much of it is real, it's made up kind of.
The only thing
proof of Aboriginal use of
I'm sort of friends with Jocelyn Eates. Well, she's not so much here anymore, she's too old, but Pearl is her daughter.
Yeah.
And she used to come out the park there and do a bit of noodling around the old timers heaps and that, and you know, you talk to them and
Yeah.
what have you, and she always believed that the rainbow serpent put the opal there and it's only 6 feet under the ground and I had to re-educate them again. I said, well, the old serpent must have been a bit crooked there for a while because we mine up to 100 feet. What? It was like, because they didn't realise. Yeah, it's nowhere near that deep.
Yeah. Okay, now, so let's go back to the story. So your story. So, what was your first mine? What was the name of it? And would you say, was it a success? Was it?
The first mine is the one I dropped.
Yeah.
It's not a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's the first one I picked on Woodstock.
And what was it called?
We called that Little Die, I think it was called at the time. And when it finally got granted, we went and tested that with a backhoe. We were only digging 3 feet. And it was like a horseshoe in the mesa. It's a big long range. Runs right through Woodstock up to that mine that I was telling you, Mount Irons it's called, right to that Archibald boundary on the way to Middleton. Well, back along that range is a big horseshoe in the range, and then and another few K past that is a road that goes down to a place called the 16 Mile. Well, an old fellow, Dennis Pillen, used to work down in there years ago. He found a lot of opal down in there.
Yeah.
But I came across this fault in this mountain there in the horseshoe years ago. Me and Dad were prospecting. Yeah. When we took the backhoe there, we realised there was shallow opal coming out of the level at the bottom of the mesa. Okay. And it ran out into the sort of the middle of the horseshoe, so in a little bit of a creek there. It was washing away.
So been eroding away.
Eroding away.
You can see it coming
and here was pancake laying there, weathered open.
Yeah. So ruined? Ruined? Because
yeah,
ruined. Sun exposed?
Ruined, but still beautiful specimens.
Yeah.
You know, really good.
So
we went and dug in a few spots around the hill there to identify the levels there, and we were pulling opal out the moment we started digging with a backhoe. Yeah. But we found
exciting.
It was exciting, and it was very satisfying because we found the trace and we eliminated the areas where it wasn't, because that's what I like to do. I like to do test holes. Yeah. It's not there. It's not there. Here it is. Here. Here it is. Here.
Yeah. And then just go for it.
Then you can work out the faults and whatever. Yeah. But we realised the level was too shallow. So nearly every little pancake, because we ran it all down into this one place where there was an old heap of dirt. And my mate said to me, the old timers put that heap there. They're hiding something. So we moved it with the backhoe. Really? And under that we got opal straight away. Wow. And it was only like that deep.
Was there any tunnelling, any sign of?
No, it was just open. Yeah. Mining on the top, see? And they'd scratched around in that creek, and that's where they'd found the colour. So they must have put all their tailings just there to walk people away from it. So we were pulling out these little pancakes about this size. Chocolate block full of lines. Yeah. But all the opal was cracked. Yeah. Every one of them, because it was too close to the surface. Yeah. How deep? What's too close? So well, that was roughly 2 to 4 feet. Okay. That level sort of wanders along like this. Yeah. And other places later we found opal at 3 feet and it was okay. And it was up. Yeah, it wasn't cracked. Mm.
Just so it depends how long that's been hit to the sun.
Yeah. Okay. But it was very exciting there at the time. Okay. And also
especially do it with your dad.
Oh, he was just whacked. He'd been mechanical his life. And this was a whole new world.
Treasure hunting, yeah.
So we even had my mate that was teaching us how to prospect. He used to come and give us a hand. He was a mate that owned, that ran Woodstock for his uncle, Troy Mills. He used to come and work with us because they're all friends, you know. Yeah. And I'd be sitting there on the backhoe digging, and the sun would catch something, you know, and you'd see something flicker over there. So he'd say to Jimmy, look, there's something shining just over on the other side of that gully there. Yeah. He was picking up pieces of opal like this coming out of the side of the hill. Yeah, awesome. It was an awesome place, and it's never been dug.
I'll delete that part. Yeah. What seasons, when would you dig?
In the winter months only. Okay. Because that area there is called, there's a river system goes through Woodstock, and part of that is Ada River, and there's a dam called Ada Dam. It's on the side of the road. Yeah. Well, once you go in behind that, it's just river system, and you will never get out of there in the wet. Okay. So we were determined we'd only go there, say, from around about May through till August, something like that.
Okay. What are the flies like? That was always my thing when we were only out there for a few days, and I don't know if we went.
The flies, mate, they get that bad you can't even open your goblet.
Yeah.
But some years they're bad, some years they're not.
So not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a success. It was like, okay, this is good.
Then I had two partners. I had two mates in Mackay that wanted to become partners with me.
Yeah.
And we eventually agreed on that, and then we decided, righto, we're going to go for this in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, we can't go for it in a big way where we are here because we couldn't get ground granted there because the LUR wasn't passed there.
Okay.
Right, so this particular lease that I put on, I didn't actually dig it at the time they wanted to become partners. I sat on it, see?
Yeah.
And it was about the first year I said to them, the only way this is going to work, we go to Opalton, because it's a proven area.
Yeah.
There's leases to buy there that are already current, and
so your strategy was buying an older lease, not
buy one already producing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we bought a lease. The first lease I bought an EP actually off an old fellow called Booler Long.
Yeah. Where's Booler Long? What's his nationality?
Booler Long was a part Aboriginal fellow, used to live in Winton.
Oh yeah.
Aussie. I think he was Aussie Aboriginal fella.
Yeah.
Great old fella, good old prospector. And he had this EP in Opalton. And it was one complete subblock, which is roughly, about 600 acres, hectares or something like that.
Yeah, it's a big.
And he found opal on it, and some Lebanese people had a dig on it, just a little scratch on the first level, near the fault. So I went and had a look at it with him, and I bought it off him for $2,000, and that was the start. And I thought, well,
$2,000's pretty cheap. I bet a lot when they're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I walked around and I picked up bits opal off the heap, and I thought, yeah, $2,000.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we were originally going to put a camp there, but because that was all cap rock, massive cap rock area.
Yeah. Okay.
And then another fellow mentioned this other lease that was for sale, had been producing a lot of money over the years, called Russian Strike. And our mate Stenko used to own it, and I'd met him actually as I was passing through Winton in a truck. And so we tracked him down, and eventually we bought that lease off him. And that was our main lease, and it had a huge big cut done there, about 250 metres long and about 40 feet deep, and with a D10. And
how big's a D10?
D10 is about 85, 90 tonne.
Okay.
Dozer.
Big, huge one.
And they pushed the opal out. Because the young fellow on the dozer didn't know anything about pushing opal, so he was pushing the opal out while the boys were on the grog. And
Yeah.
Then it rained and filled up this big cut. So having that cut full of water was like $1 million for me, because that's the ideal place for a camp.
Oh,
water,
yeah.
see?
Yeah.
So we bought that lease, set up the camp and everything there eventually.
Yeah.
And the first lot of pancakes that we dug out of there was about $600,000 worth, and it was only 18 feet deep.
And how long did that take for you to mine that?
Not long at all, because we started with a 65 tonne digger, and because I'd had all that pre-knowledge of finding the fault, find the trace, do the test holes, that was my main thing, see?
Yeah.
So I had this system where I'd find the fault and just do testing, 4 holes at a time into blocks. And that's what I started doing. Well, I picked up colour straight away.
Yeah.
And I decided, right, I'm going to strip mine this whole area. So we started doing that. Well, then the first cut in, 600,000, it's 3 pancakes. Only that big.
Yeah, wow. Real, true
straw
gem.
pattern, red. And out of those 3 pancakes, we split something like 240 something stones.
Yeah.
The smallest of them were around about 3 to 4 carats. The largest was about 12 to 15 carats. But it was all just beautiful to split. And I didn't split it all because I didn't know enough about cutting them days.
Yeah.
So we got a fellow called Ray Jackson. You know the Jackson boys, did you meet them?
No.
It was Ray and Bruce. They'd been out there for years.
And they would do the work at Winton, or were they coming up to you?
He done it on the mine site for us because we had the gear set up.
Yeah, oh good.
And Ray said, I'll come and show you how to do it.
Yeah.
So he did it. From then on, we got more opal, and then it rained. Because I moved onto that lease about 2 years before the end of an 8-year drought. Well, that second year was up. the year after we got those the very next year after we got that pancake and some more opal, and I was doing big jobs there. Yeah. And when it rained, that whole lease filled up right to the top.
No,
so
okay.
Eventually, what happened was that mine, even though I'd go back every now and then, I'd give it a hit. I'd pegged all these other leases. We had 14 leases there altogether. Yeah. And most of them were 20, 25 hectares. One was 50 hectares because it had been pre-Aboriginal agreement. Yeah. And I just kept working away to other mines and then coming back having a nibble when it was dry in certain areas. Yeah. And I've just sold the place 2 years ago to Max Reed and his boys. And they pulled more money out of the place. And
yeah, right.
If you ever did the place properly, script mine the whole thing, it'd be a lot of money in there.
Yeah, oh, brilliant. I'm going to cut that out too. cut that part of the video. So, and where would you do this? Who would do the selling? Like, what? So
we tried. My partners were in heavy earth moving sales and service. Yeah. Heavy engineering, and they would be running to America occasionally and Canada or Switzerland or whatever. Yeah. In conferences and stuff like that.
Okay.
So they decided to try and sell. So by going to Tucson, different other shows, what's that one, San Diego or something? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was there a couple of times. And then, by this time I'd found our kingstones. We were right into going to Tucson and everything, and we had these stones, valued at 300,000, 200,000. People couldn't believe them. They were saying they're not real.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So we had to get the AGTA in America to verify.
$300,000 for a... Wow. Yeah.
So, but look, in the end I said to them, you're wasting your time going there because nobody knows you. You've got to have people know.
I agree with that, yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I said, well, we're not going to do any more of this running around selling anything. We'll try and sell it from the mine. Mm-hmm. And we'd had it in our head that we weren't getting paid enough money for it, so we stockpile. Yeah. And then eventually got cutters, and one cutter ripped us off. Okay. And
because that's I often, when we do the tour here, compare opal mining with gold in a way, because you saw that eureka moment. But with gold mining, it's so much easier because you can go to the bank and get your money. With opal, you get the better eureka kind of experience, but the selling it, and you're only halfway. Yeah, it's so much work. Look what we've done here at the museum here to be able to.
I've learned a lot through mates, and I see some of the stuff in your shop here, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's that old thing where we used to cover. When I started in the game, we were getting boulders full of potchy colour. Yeah. Low end, really low. Smack them with a sledgehammer and kick them over the side and bury them. Like fools, because you just don't think, It's like having an XY Falcon and selling it.
Yeah, it'll be worth a lot of money.
Anyway, but over the years it's taught me, it's nice to have all those beautiful stones, but the money's in the rubbish. And it's how you value add that rubbish that makes the money. Yeah,
just turns over.
And that's all I do these days. If somebody comes along to the Opalton Bush Park and they want to find a piece of opal, so you take them over in the old heaps, you scratch around and you pull a bit of colour out and a bit of old sandstone or whatever. Yeah. And they say, but that's sort of soft and no good. And no, it's not. You can treat it and you can turn it into something for you. Yeah. It doesn't have to be sold. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you can turn everything into something.
I want to talk about opal, what you're doing with Opalton in a second. Just so would you, as a miner, were you trying to also, so would you sell many parcels? I mean, things have changed a lot. I know a lot of overseas people now head out there, but were they still doing that back then? Or
they were, and we decided we weren't going to sell parcels. We wanted, we were going to be different everywhere. So, but we were in a big way. We were in a big way. Yeah. So we decided we're going to cut everything. We're going to cut and finish everything. So, because we were determined not to give away a piece of rock with a line showing, or 2 or 3 lines showing, and not knowing what's in there. Because we'd seen so many times through mining. And you always learn the hard way. You get a pancake or a boulder and you chip the edge of it. Oh, he's got a nice bit of colour there.
A little bit next to it.
So you should just put him straight in the bucket then, but of course, there's always that temptation.
What if something's in there? Yeah.
And you see it. You see it. Like it might only be potch and colour there or white milky opal here, and here full-blown red. So I just was determined.
It is so hard. It's opal rough, selling opal rough, and valuing it, and it's just...
It's crazy. I can't do it. I can't. My head will not let me sell a rough parcel.
Yeah.
I mean, mates will say to me, look, what do you reckon this parcel's worth? And I go, don't even ask me. Because my brain can't look at the line on that end and a piece of rock that big and then say a price. Because I said, well, how the hell can you price it? You can't see how far that line goes.
Really hard.
But it's all a guessing game, of course. But I can't do it.
Yeah. And then, you know what? And what if they do spend a lot of money and you sell it to someone and it's really, and the opal isn't there, you know, and then they get all upset, and it's hard. It's too hard.
Yeah. I would myself. I would rather, and this is what I did. I just block, face, and split everything that can be split. Of course, we split. Yeah. But block it and face it. Don't even just trim the worst of it off. Yeah. Into the bin. There it is. Yeah. Then I'll sell it. Yeah.
Just have it that way. Everyone's happy to that fair kind of price. You know, at least they have the best guess you can possibly.
And I think a lot of them are appreciating that nowadays because they're able to finish it and turn it into whatever they like. And I learned a lot off a fellow called Philip Stone. Used to have an opal shop in town there. And he taught me all this stuff with the low grade because we had drums and drums of it that he went through for us. Sent the stuff to China and got it turned into cheap jewellery and a lot of it was just potch. And I remember we started with potch stones that we either carved them or we flat, whatever they were, and polished them. And they could have been worth anything up to say $50, $80, depending on what shape we were in. So Philip and Denise used to play with the shapes and play with the settings. Then all of a sudden Sonny came into the thing from Vietnam. He started carving. So it made a potch stone go from $50 to $250. And that. And it looks,
because you get rid of those cracks, the looks, and then it then changes it. And you haven't done it in a way by treating it. You've done it from art, and and that's taken a whole new.
And that impressed me then. So I just, if a piece had a crack in it, I'd put it in containers with pieces with cracks. And then the other pieces I'd sell in another container. But I've always sold the pieces with cracks.
Now, so we're just going to finish up, Daryl, but I just want to let's talk about Opalton a wee bit. So you're saying, how much of your time would you spend out in that area? I mean, you live in Winton.
Oh, look, I did 10 years straight, winters, summers, the whole thing in the beginning because I was keen as mustard.
And you also, what apart from the opal mining, what about the environment? Can you tell people listening what you think of the environment? Is it I mean, rugged? Is it beautiful in what way? I mean,
it's fairly rugged in its own way, and I mean a lot of people come and look at it as being
some parts of it.
Yeah, red sandstone, gidgee timber, spinifex, bloody three-corner burrs, like bugger this place, you know, we're out of here. But they don't stop for that few days to really take in what's there, because when you see, Opalton's a funny place, and everybody that knows it any more than a week usually says the same thing. They want to come back because it's got something sort of magic about it. But I think a lot of places are like that in the opal game. You know, if you go to Woodstock and you're camping between the mesas or Vergemont, it gets to you. It's such a nice area.
It's very remote. It is. that part is pretty good. You know, you're so and it's so away from so many people, and there's not many other.
I've been all over the country, round in trucks and cattle all through the middle, and seen a lot of the country. But I never ever get the feeling that I get anywhere else in Australia that I get from Opalton. When I'm driving into Opalton, I always get this sort of, I'm home.
Opal country.
and I can move back into my camp after 6 months or whatever, and I just blend in. And within a few days, you don't realise it, but the pressure's off. You're doing what you want to do. You love doing what you're doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. It is a magical place. It really is.
And Opalton, so it used to be it used to be a town. For those who don't know, it used to be
600 odd people.
Yeah, about 100 years ago. Ish. Chinese. You know what other nationalities? Mainly.
Oh, I think Chinese, Croatian, Yugoslavs. I think they've always been there.
World War II.
Yeah, and the old Aussie. I mean, there was George Craig, fellow started mining Opalton.
Yeah.
Because they used to say them days that Opalton was red, all red, but people used to think that they meant the sandstone. But it was red opal laying all over the ground from that big fault running through Opalton.
Wow. Yeah. So we had and then it pretty much was dead for from the maybe 1920s and
just before the Second World War.
Yeah.
All people moved away.
Yeah. When did someone go back when Des?
I'm not sure of the dates when George Craig started mining.
Okay. 50s, 60s?
Yeah,
50s?
I would say 50s.
50s, yeah. Okay. And then slowly, but it's
maybe even before that, because Opalton was full on. I know it was supposed to be 600 odd people, constant people in Opalton, roughly 800 floating population. Stagecoach used to run through there, and all the shops, you know.
Yep. Your pub?
Yeah,
Close
two pubs.
Two pubs,
two pubs there.
Which is phenomenal because it's just nothing. It was for either. It was just nothing.
And now the only thing that's left of anything is a few star pickets to mark where the cemetery was, the pub where one pub was.
Yeah.
The old police station stumps are still sitting there in the water tank, sitting beside it.
Yeah, well.
And that's about it. It's up to the imagination.
Yeah.
But
the people in Winton, Opal people, and they're trying to reinvigorate it. So
they're really starting to. Because of Gavin Baskett, the mayor, and a few other mates in town there.
So thank you, Gavin.
Yes, they actually love the place. We've had them out for a few parties and bands and different things. We do with the camp oven cooking, and we've got pizza ovens and everything there now.
Yep.
So they love the place that much. They're giving us a hand to try and get the place up and going. We've
So there's water there?
Yeah,
so
all rainwater tanks there. There's a big dam there with water to wash your rocks and wash your washing.
Yeah.
And we've got a little shop there now.
And it's a good place to fossick if people have fossicking.
Magic fossick, and you always find something. A lot of people will say you can't find nothing, but it's only because they don't know how to look.
Mm.
But there's enough of us there during the season that will show people how to find it, what to look for, and they always go way out.
So let's say someone turns up, someone watches this video, and they turn up, they go, let's go there, they head up in their four-wheel drive with a caravan?
Yeah, with caravan. The road's plenty good enough. It's rated a couple of times a year, and you can get in no problem.
So they turn up. What would they do? How is it? If no one is, how would they?
Come to the bush, go into the bush park, find the bush park in Opalton, and you just drive in there. And if none of the boys are at the shop having a drink with other people in the afternoon, because everyone mingles a bit, and that's where all the lies and everything come out of.
Yep.
But if you
just wait till night time, people will be around.
They'll be around, because once the season starts, even if it's only one caravan, there'll be somebody there to interact with them. Glenn Nettle he's a miner there, hand miner. He does a little tour with the tourists every day. It's a free tour. Mm. And he runs them by his camp, hoping they're going to buy a bit over off him. But it's there, and there's people to show you, and there's showers, there's hot water showers, and
a really good chance to find opal at your fossick.
Yes.
And because you've got people there to show you, as opposed to
and a lot of the miners like us will take you to the mine and show you what goes on. And
yeah, awesome.
It will all change in the next couple of years. It's going to be pushed pretty hard.
Yeah. Here we go. Fingers crossed. Yeah, that's great. All right, Daryl, thank you for coming in.
No problem.
I really enjoyed that conversation.